How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to another pool coaching lesson. In case you haven't noticed, I am rejoined by none other than Demitrius from MN Pool Bootcamp. How's it going, man?
Fantastic. Thank you, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to have you back on. We were also supposed to have Nate here with us, but unfortunately, he had some other things that he had to take care of today. So hopefully, here soon, the three of us can come back together and do one of these reviews. But for now, it's going to be the two of us. But before we get started, Demetrius, what have you been up to?
Well, tell you, I've been doing a lot of pool coaching. Uh, MN is stands for Minnesota. It's mnpoolbootcamp.com. You can check it out. I do pool instruction that's one-on-one, extensive, in-depth pool instruction. So I do 3-day boot camps. That way, people that live all over the country, they're not going to fly in to take a 2-hour lesson. And I don't do 2-hour lessons. There's a lot of people that do. I don't. What I like to do is take good players that have learned the concepts and learned the game, and then basically we were just talking about it before this, Chris, a little bit as we were catching up, and basically people think they know how to play the game because they already have a lot of tools and they already have a lot of knowledge and they already play pretty well. But the difference between playing okay and then good and then great is not new ideas that necessarily that they're missing, but fine tuning those things to higher levels, getting a better understanding of how they work, sharpening those tools, and then assembling them better so that their runouts start becoming cleaner and cleaner and higher percentage, so that they're not having to make difficult recovery shots, practice their stroke into a Coke bottle until they never miss, because that's the only way they know how to try to run out. It's like, no, let's try to make the game look easier and easier as opposed to trying to shoot straighter and straighter. That's kind of my whole mentality. And I've myself played pretty strong without doing anything too flashy. So I know how to put it together and I know how to train it. So anybody that's been playing for a while, they play pretty, they've learned a lot about the game, they play pretty well, but they haven't seen their game evolve in the last year, 2 years, 5 years, or people that are about to put a lot of work in over the next couple of years and really want to get the most bang out of their buck. Look me up, mnpoolbootcamp.com. And let's see if we can find 3 days to carve 3 days out of your life to just go all in, live at my house, train with me 12 hours a day. And my goal is to send you home a different pool player than you get here.
And everybody should know that I can testify to that because I've been to the boot camp and it has had a dramatic effect on my game. So, for today's review, everybody, I'd like you to meet Dave. He has sent me this video a long time ago. I mean, going back to October. This is how far behind we are in trying to get these videos done. But he tells me that he is a tap league player and he feels like he has hit a plateau. He feels like he can only averagely run anywhere between 4 to 6 balls, but is unable to finish the table. And I mean, if you're getting up to six, there's only one more ball left before you shoot the 8 ball. So yeah, we're gonna try to break down these 3 racks of 8 ball that he's going to do and see where we can possibly try to find the mistakes. I mean, if he's able to get to six, he should be able to get to seven and then be able to get the 8th ball. So the way this is going to work is pretty much the last time I had Demitrius on the show. I'm pretty much going to let him run the show. He's going to do commentary at least on the first and third rack. I will do commentary on the second rack. But when we break down the individual segments in each rack as to what we can try to offer as advice, that'll pretty much be Demetrius' show. And then I will try to throw in a comment or two here and there. So without further ado, let's check out this first rack. All right, Demetrius, are you ready to check out this first rack?
Let's do it. Let's see what Dave's got for us.
All right, here we go.
All right. Yeah, when somebody tells me that they're running 4 and 5 balls, but not running all of them, usually it's, dealing with that problem ball or two. It's usually people that shoot well enough to pocket open balls and can solve some of the problems on the table. But okay, I'm gonna be looking for how he identifies and eliminates the toughest shots. Here he's got a testy one because the only really easy opening shot he's got is solids. But boy, with that 8 ball on the side rail over there, I would have thought I might have spent a little more time trying to find a way to not be solids here. But okay. Because see, already, this is where it goes into, when things don't work, you have to ask yourself, is it a decision or an execution error? And here he's already up against it. Now here okay, let's see what he does. Well, that's a good shot. I'm assuming he didn't have a lot of optimism that that ball was going to like follow it in. So that was a good shot. He's got solids. And now that the 4 is hanging there with the stripes tied up on that side rail, he's got to have the best of it. It's going to be very hard for stripes. So that was a very good shot. I was looking at that too. My original thought was to maybe play a billiard, play the cue ball into that ball. But this is really nice the way that ball is blocking the pocket.
Yeah, pretty much a good safety strategy since he's trading back and forth.
Oh, what a shot. You see that? He almost kicked the 8 into the 4. I mean, he made a long, hard shot and then, okay.
But like
Now,
you
normally I
said,
don't.
what is he going to do with these 2 stripes now that are next
Well,
to the
I might
rail?
bank at that 12 right now. I normally don't like banking balls, but, but even if he does bank that and run the 13 short side, he's got that 8 ball. So, yeah, he's kind of in a losing position with stripes, but you have to keep going. So you have to find a way. I don't even think this 10 ball goes. So he's got every ball on the table. It's now a problem ball. So for that reason, did he get on the 13? Wow, almost. In a game here, I think you might be better off, playing maybe, what's interesting. The solids has the option of playing a 3-ball combo. So maybe you need to move the 7 and 6 away from there. Okay, that's a good shot. That's clever.
So now Stripes owns that pocket again.
Yeah, yeah. It was tough though because where the 8 was, he had to not only make the combo but kind of wiggle the 14 or whatever ball that was behind the 8. Maybe it was the 12, and didn't have to quite work that way. But he played it softly to keep the 6 ball blocked up. Yeah, we're talking fast and the game's changing fast, but I'll tell you, there's a ton of strategy in 8 ball. One of the things I like to work on a lot too with 8 ball players is I do a lot of 8 ball end games where I'll set up 2 stripes and 2 solids and battle out with my students these end games. And I talk about a number of different themes that come up in the little safety battles. So first I teach them specific maneuvers on how they can move the cue ball, the object ball around. And then we set up these end games and battle because there's at this level, as you can already see, there's a lot of this game is going to be decided by who gets the right object ball group and what they do with it, as opposed to just who can shoot straight. It's about who gets the chances to run their balls out. And it's so important. And there's a lot of subtleties to this 8 ball. Well, it's a good shot. Now, the 8 ball's open, but the 6 is not. So here he's either going to have to go all in and bank the 6 because it'll never get any easier, or he can try to like make the 7 and then combo that ball in and try to like not leave a shot. I think he's banking this ball. Yep. And it fell. What a shot.
Nicely done.
Let's see. When Dave moves out of the camera, what does he have? He's got nothing. Does he have the 1? Does he have the 1? I don't think so. Well, now he still has the chance to build. He could either bank the 7 and try to bank the 7 cross quarter and get on the 1, or he could maybe play the combo here and try to deny a shot at one of the stripes because that 13 ball is always going to be a hard shot. But I think he's banking this ball.
Banks it a little too hard, and oh my goodness, this is going to be tough to recover from.
Yeah, he now stripes can shoot this 12 off the 8 to open up the pocket here, but you're not in any hurry, right? Like you don't have to do anything because solids can't run out. So you can billiard I might even make the guy's 1 ball, billiard off the 10 and make his 1. I think that's what he was trying to do.
Yeah,
so
that looks like what he was trying.
Yeah, so now, so here, oh no, even if you shot the guy's 12 in and gave up ball in hand here, which is the first thing I look at, well, this doesn't lead anywhere. Oh no.
Oh, it looks like he tried to break it up, but he ends up ending the rack instead.
So and to be fair, he was
rack 2.
Yeah, he was in a totally losing position there as solids, which is why he did what he did as stripes the shot before. So it's like you can't criticize the guy's shot there. You have to applaud the shot he did before, which is he knew better than to open those balls up for him. So, well, this was an interesting. We've done a lot of reviews, Chris, and I don't think we've seen one exactly like that. it seemed like that was more of a strategy rack than normally what we've seen. So this will be a fun one to review.
Yeah, you got a few spots you want to talk about?
Sure.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at them.
All right. So one of the things I really wanted to zero in on this rack was, like I was saying, a lot of times it's not about who's the better shooter. It's about who has the better plan. And here we're in a situation where Stripes has 3 balls, Solids has 6. And because Solids has more balls, better positioned, blocking pockets, I think Solids certainly has the best of it. In other words, if I'm playing it, right now, if I'm Solid sitting in my chair, I feel like I should win this game the vast majority of the time. And so, and Stripes has kind of been in a pickle in part because of those 2 balls tied up on the side rail and the pocket being blocked. So go ahead, Chris, and let's see what happens after he plays this stripe. He tried to make a hero run with Stripes. He could see it was coming to an end. So he goes ahead and makes this shot. All right. Can you pause it here for just a moment? So this is the position where, as Solids, I feel I'm supposed to win this game, and I should be able to win it without having to do anything too tricky. No hero breakouts and bank shots and betting the game on a hard shot. So I look at it and say, how can I win this game from here? And clearly now the stripe, I mean, he made a good shot with Stripes. He did his part. He's got the worst of it, but he's going to make you earn it. But it seems to me that the critical maneuver here is finding a way to shoot the 7 into the hanging 12 softly. Not necessarily even tying up the 8 ball, but just making that guy's hanger and then denying Stripes a shot. The way the balls are sitting, the 13 ball is like near frozen on the side rail. You're going to be blocking that pocket with the 7. So where's that? The ball is only going to go up table past the side pocket, and you just don't leave them there. It doesn't even bank because the 10-1 are in the way. As far as the 10 ball, we don't think the 10 goes to the side because earlier he passed on that shot and shot the 14 to the corner. So if that ball went to the side, he would have shot it. It looks like the only spot the 10 even goes is probably in the top left corner, just narrowly by the 1. So, and the 5 ball prevents you from getting on that. So basically, it's not, I mean, you're going to have a hard time playing a safety where you don't leave some type of hit on a stripe, but it's going to be very easy to deny a shot at Stripes if you pocket his hanger. And if you have a ball hanging, and you also have 2-1 ball count, or actually it'll be a 3-1 ball count, or 2.5-1 ball count after you make this one. I just feel like, yes, you're going to let your man back to the table, but they are not going to outmove you at a safety game if you own 5 balls, own that corner pocket by the 8 ball, and their balls are both out of play. You're going to win this game all the time. So the only question is, so what I'm looking at is right here, right now. I would love to combo the 7-12, I think that is. Leave it hanging. And as far as my cue ball, there's 2 things you can do with your cue ball. You can either roll this in with maybe a hint of outside English, a hint of right spin, so that the cue ball bounces to the side rail just below the 13 and then maybe floats towards the middle of the table. So shoot this combo. The cue ball can either follow to the rail somewhere around there and then maybe spin back in between the 2 strikes, like anywhere out there. Yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine. Like anywhere out there. Or the other option is if you're hitting a little bit too thick, if you're kind of going more at the 13 because you're so close to it, it would take too good of a nip follow. You could also kind of shoot a soft stun shot and just go right into the 13 or above the 13 softly, like freeze them on top of the 13. That's kind of what I'd like to do. If I could nip this in and just kind of stun the cue ball right up on top of the 13, even a ball higher, Chris, I wouldn't want to leave a chance of going into it and like there. Yeah, just freeze them right there. Just that's what I'd be trying to do is just wedge the cue ball. And I feel like that's kind of a game winner. Now, the reason this is so important, because he doesn't shoot that shot, let's take a look at how it plays out. He shoots the 5 first. You can, I don't know if we want to watch this and fast forward. He shoots the 5 first. Is that the 5? I think so.
Yes.
And he's trying to run out. And now at this point, I didn't fault him because I didn't know if maybe, he was just trying to get a better angle to do what I was talking about. But now he goes for this shot and he's killing his soldiers. In 8 ball, we say this is killing your soldiers. And so now, even here, I saw the bank shot, but I also mentioned shooting the 7 and then playing this combo. I was so set on just finding a way to eliminate any threat. You're just at such a winning spot. So now he plays this bank. And after making this bank, now he's kind of in a losing position. Now I shouldn't say lost because he even still can you pause it here, Chris? Even still, he could still play the 7-12 combo and not leave an easy shot. But the problem is now it's harder to maybe get the cue ball where it's safe. And now you've only got a 2-1. Now it's a 2-2. If you make that combo, now you've only got two solids on the table to two stripes, which means it is very possible that he'll find a way to deny you a shot at one of those two shots. Or if somehow, you leave him a shot, it's now it's easier to get on the 10 ball, or maybe he finds a way to billiard off the 13 and make your hanger, or I don't know. It's just, you've only got two balls. Now, if you let your man to the table, he's got moves he can make. It's not so, you don't have a soldier surplus. You're no longer, it's a little bit more risky. But even still, in this spot, you still have to ask yourself, which is more likely? Am I going to bank the 7 successfully, or if I combo the 7 into that hanger, am I going to win the safety battle more often? I still might play the combo and play my cue ball across table towards those chalks a little bit, because or maybe halfway over, just because, say you leave them on the spot where you rack the 1 ball, like put a dot on the spot there, Chris. Where do you rack the balls? Right there. Say you just comboed in and left them right there. I like your chances, man. I like your chances. You got a hanging 7 ball. You got your cue ball on that spot. I wouldn't really think I'm going to win as stripes from there very often. I think I'm going to win the game more playing this combo than I am going to be. And I'm not a bad banker, but I feel like I'm probably 40% to make the bank, and I'm like 100% to put him on the spot here. And I think he's only like, I just don't think he's winning from here. So I think I'm the favorite still. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because when I watched this rack, I knew that Solids had the best of it. Stripes was digging a hole on that run out, and Solids came to the table as a strong favorite. And they went from being a decisive favorite, where I would feel like I'm like 95%, to where here I'd feel like I'm probably a good favorite, like 70%, to where once he misses this bank and ties up the 7 ball, he's like, against a good player, he's drawn almost dead. So this is where I felt like all the equity faded for Solids. And this is where 8-ball matches are a lot of times are lost, not because of ball that was missed, but because I find it interesting to capture on film how people can lose 8-ball matches without really missing a shot necessarily.
Man, I couldn't agree any more with that. So pretty much like this really didn't have anything to do with faulting him for only being able to run 4 to 6 balls. It was really just out strategizing solids versus stripes in this particular case, right? Yeah, so
Yeah, exactly.
that's awesome. I have one particular thing that I do want to talk about before we go on to the next rack. So let's talk about that. All right, so here's the most important spot I want to talk about, which is the opening shot that he took after the break. Now, Demitrius, you had already commented about how you felt like he approached the table rather quickly, instead of observing the entire table to make sure, like, does he already have a plan on, if he plans on trying to win from here, like, how is he going to do it? Where we already see that he's just going to start with solids. You already said that solids has the best chance. I agree with it, but this to me was like the crucial shot that had to be made correctly in order to just finish it right off of the break. Because what happens here? He shoots this 2-ball in, and then this is where all the trouble starts to come. Because the 6-ball heads over by the 8 and his 15-ball. The 7-ball ties up next to those 2 stripes there, which looks like the 11-ball and the 12-ball. I kind of feel like had he paid more attention to what to do on this shot, the entire results of the rack could be different. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, look. If he just shoots this shot softer, more importantly, because we can see this, look how the cue ball naturally comes into the 6, which naturally comes into the 7, and if that 7 doesn't have any pace on it, it's right there for the corner pocket. And then the 6-ball is more than likely still going to end up maybe somewhere over here. It might bump into the 4 or whatever, but this is going to be the next shot somewhere right around here. And that changes the entire rack altogether. So I feel like since he hit it as hard as he did, he wants to break it out. Sure. I mean, whenever we have clutters, we want to break out clutters, but we got to pay very close attention as to how we break out those clutters. You're always, when you're trying to play position from one ball to the next, not only are you trying to pay attention to the object ball going into the pocket, but you're trying to pay attention to the cue ball going to the next position shot for the next shot there. But when you're breaking out clutters, there's more than just 2 balls in play. There's the cue ball, the ball that you're making, and then the clutter that you're trying to open up. And you have to be aware of where that clutter is going to go. because you don't want to make it worse than it already is. And in this case here, that's exactly what I think that he had done. Had he just shot the shot a little bit softer, then more than likely I feel like he would have had a shot at the 7 ball. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, go 1 or 2 frames forward. Because you showed what would happen if he hit it super soft. What if he hit it just a little harder? Where do the balls go if he hits it, 2, 3 frames? Look at this. Yeah. So, and now obviously there's some spots down there where the 6 could have tied up with the 4. But even here, all the balls still go in the pocket by the cue ball. Now he doesn't have a direct shot, but he still, even still, if he has to play a safety from here, at least all of his balls are in play now. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, going off of this about running into balls, running into clutters, there's another spot where I feel like he was trying to finesse this, and that was this shot here. Because after he makes that magnificent draw shot that basically ties up the 8 ball next to the 4 ball when he's running stripes, he's at a position now where he's going to play the 9 ball here into this corner pocket. But he knows he's going to bump into the 10 ball. And I feel like he wanted to just bump into the 10 ball to where it lands right here so that he can have a window to shoot past the 1 ball to go into the side pocket. I feel pretty certain that's what he wants to do. But the 10 ball rolls up right here and ties up next to the 1 ball. And I believe he calls it audible and shoots the 14 instead. So this, again, goes back to just making sure we understand where the balls are going to go. You know you're going to run into the 10 ball, so don't really try to finesse it. Just go ahead and hit it. Don't blast it, but make sure it's going to run into the 1 ball, move the 1 ball out of the way, and then the 10 ball is automatically set up for the side pocket no matter what. And I think at this point here, that also changes the rack entirely. He still has to deal with this, but he certainly doesn't have to call an audible from this shot
You know
after
what?
that.
I told you to point this out because I thought it was another example. To be fair, as I think back, I think he catches the thick side of the pocket with the 9. Maybe he was trying to run it into the 1 with a little pace. Let's see the shot play. I think he catches this 9 a little thick, and that kills the cue ball speed. Well, it might have killed. Maybe he was, but you know what? No, at that speed, he wanted to hit it a little crispier than that. You're right.
I think
Okay.
so. But to me, like when it comes to obviously trying to make sure that you run the table and dealing with troubled spots, like you have to be able to be more aware of how those trouble spots are going to open up, because otherwise all you're going to do is just make the situation worse for yourself. And like you said, at this point here, since there's really no apparent way to possibly finish the set as solids or stripes, you're just making one hero shot after another like you were talking about. There's really no reason to try to run the table. Instead, you maneuver your soldiers around. This almost becomes like a chess game until you find the opportunity to be able to attack the table. Because the way this table is set up right now, neither solids or stripes is going to run the table without making some amount of hero shots in order to do that. So take the time, set the table up, and then attack the table. You got anything else, Demitrius?
No, that was great. Let's see rack 2.
All right, let's go on to rack 2. All right, so for rack 2, we can see that Dave is switching to a side break here, so he's more than likely going to hit the ball that's in the second row. So let's see what kind of spread he might get off of this break. Okay, it looks like we got a solid and a stripe to fall on the break. 8 ball doesn't really move out of the rack. I mean, usually when you do a second ball break, you usually get a little bit more movement out of the 8 ball. Now, he does have an open table. And I would have to say at this point, stripes has the advantage guarding that pocket. I would not necessarily agree with doing a combo because now he's ruined stripes by doing that. Let's see what he does from here. Okay, so now the problem he's going to have here with stripes is what is he going to do with the 9 ball? So this almost looks like the same thing to where in rack 1 we were talking about you're taking balls off the table that you probably shouldn't because you're just going to surrender the table to solids. So he ends up doing a foul there, trying to just kick into the 9, I guess try to maneuver the solids out of the way. So with ball in hand and solids now being completely wide out in the open, I wonder if he would be able to finish it from here. Because this is where pattern selection would be the utmost important. And initially, I'm thinking with ball in hand, he probably should be starting with the 7 ball if he's able to, because that looks to be the most troublesome ball. It's limited to go in either of the bottom corner pockets with the 8 and the 3 being in the way. I can't tell if he can squeeze it past the 6. It might be able to go into the upper left if the 3 ball doesn't block that path. But it looks like he's going to start with the 6. Does it go past the 8 ball? Or is he going to be shooting the 3 ball next? Okay, it goes past the 8. So yeah, like, you know, unless he makes a mistake, I would think the rack should be solved. Not entirely sure that was necessary. I kind of feel like the 5 ball would have been the natural shot to set up for next, because then that just allows you to naturally set up for the 1 and the 2. Maybe he's trying to use the 5 ball as the key ball to get on the 8.
He might have been kind of going at it where he couldn't stop short of it. And if he went to the side rail, he might have been kind of going at it a little bit much. Yeah, let's see. It seems.
Okay, 1 ball should be going into the side pocket. Looks like he has an angle to where you can come down towards the middle of the table and play the 5 in the same pocket, while the 8 ball probably will be going to the bottom right corner pocket. Well, he follows all the way up. Never mind. So do you... I can't tell with the way the camera's angled if this is a straight shot. Do you just play a stop shot here? No, you do drag it out and the 8 ball goes into the bottom left. So, I mean, like I said, with ball in hand and you have no trouble balls, it's just all really about pattern selection. And that was actually very well done. A couple of things I would have done differently there, though. Do you have a couple of spots you think you can give some pointers on?
Yeah, let's take a look.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start this one off here. And I think with an open table, again, this is the most important shot, just like how I talked about in the previous rack here. You want to take stripes. It's pretty obvious. Like, stripes pretty much owns the table with these 2 balls being here. And then there's, like, these aren't really a trouble some area because you can just shoot this ball here freely and then possibly shoot this ball over here afterwards. This is pretty much a hanger to go anywhere that you want. It's just really these 2 right here, and then this pretty much can go anywhere here depending upon the position that you get. And what we end up seeing Dave do here is a 3-ball combination to be able to make I think this is the 15 ball. And the problem that we saw was how the 3-ball pretty much covered up the 9-ball after that. So there's 2 things I have to consider here. The first one being is, do you even have to use the 3-ball? Like, just judging from the camera angle, it looks like you don't have to. It looks like the 9-ball can be hit, go into the rail, and hit the 15 at the same time, which means the ball will be coming over here. You can just drift the cue ball, set up for this guy here to take this out, while the 9-ball probably just banks its way over here. Now, if you can't do that, there's not enough for it to be able to make the combo. Maybe you can hit it to where, like, it'll just hit the rail and it'll miss the ball altogether. Like, if that is the case and you have to use a mixed combination because you do have an open table, you just gotta hit this in such a way to where this ball just does not cover up your 9-ball. Like, there's no other reason for that. You have to hit this firmer, and then don't even worry about what happens over here. The biggest thing is to make sure that this ball does not tie up. Play position for this ball, or maybe play position for these, given the position that you have. You're already elevated over the 5 and the 7 ball, so you can throw some left spin on this if you want to be able to make sure that when you hit this rail here, you spin back towards the middle of the table to get position on the 14, or just go ahead and just come all the way back up here for these guys here. Regardless of what happens, but make sure that that 3-ball does not tie up with the 9-ball. Demetrius, would you agree with that?
Yeah, we were talking. I kind of like popping it, like you said. Like, if you had to shoot the 3-ball combo, I like that zigzag. Just go ahead and pop it in. Make sure that 3 gets away from the 9. And if and the other way you could do that is by cutting the 3 thinner, so it cuts the 9 enough to where, you know, if that 3 hits the 9 full, it's going to stick. But if you can make that 3 cut the 9 a little bit, you can kind of pop it out of there and scoot your ball up table. That's right. But yeah, all of that doesn't even look like it was necessary. If you could soft roll in the combo as is, that's 10 times better because you're total control. Anytime you can eliminate variables, right?
Yep, exactly. And I believe you had one spot that you wanted to talk about, correct?
Yeah. Let's go to the next position after this shot. And by the way, I do want to give Dave some credit. I actually liked his solids run it a lot. I mean, it could have been refined inches, but as far as his overall pattern, in the order of the balls he shot, he never had a hard shot. He never left himself hooked or kicking or banking. Or it was a very clean solids run. I wanted to give him a little kudos for that, because now I am going to tear is still beating hard up. No, I'm just kidding. Let's go to the next shot here.
Oops.
Oh, yep, here we go. So this one was interesting. So in the game, what he did here is he played this stripe, got on the 14, and then ended up shooting a stop shot. He got kind of straight on the 14, stopped the ball, hooked himself, and sold out. Even if he'd been able to get on the stripes up table, the problem here now is because of the first shot, that 9 ball doesn't go. And so the whole thing is you have to find a way to open up the 9. You just have to. And of course, there's some creative shots. Like I'm looking at it, like the double carom or something, where you overcut this ball enough to carom it off the 3, off the 9. But I'm not doing that for my game. So what I'm looking at here is we have to find a way to open up the 9, and that means the 14 ball. We can't go into it now. There's not enough inside English in the world to spin into the 3 ball now. And the best breakout ball we have is the 14. Meaning if we could shoot this ball in the corner and get on those 2 stripes at the opposite end rail, and we could maybe do that with just a straight high ball going between the 7-14. I know that looks like a keyhole, but that's what I do is I hit keyholes. So that's one option. The other one is to use low right spin. And this is a really good one, to come 2 rails and then all the way to the 3rd rail like this. That's a really, really good pattern. So it may be you're a little thin, maybe you're a little thin to do that and get past the 1, it's maybe, I don't know. But in any case, this is what I'm looking at is, can we get the cue ball to where we can run those other 2 stripes? Now, of course, I don't like shooting this 14. What makes it hard is when we shoot the 14 and break it open, we're going to have to break it open and get a shot at it with an angle to get on the 8. So obviously that's a really tough thing to do. But that's your best chance, because otherwise, if you shoot this, even if you shoot the 14 and run these 2 stripes, your control over that breakout, even hitting the breakout, is going to get more and more difficult by using one of those upper stripes, much less being able to control what part of it you hit. I think you got to save the 14 if at all possible. One other thing I want to mention is, because of how difficult all that is, there's another option. Of course, I play a little 1 pocket, and I love 8-ball end games. And this is, when I'm in a tough spot, I always ask myself, what defensive options are there? And there's actually a pretty reasonable one, even though you're actually down, even though you've shot a couple stripes. He's only shot 1 stripe. So it's actually 3, 4, 5 stripes and 6 solids. So you're only down 1 ball. So you're not all in on the run just yet. And you have the pocket blocked here where solids can't really run out. So for those reasons, you don't have to start killing soldiers and go all in on a run if you can't finish it. And so there's a shot here. Of course, it's not easy, but it's a shot that I like. And Chris, we kind of talked about it, so you could diagram it for me. You bank this ball. You bank this object ball above the cluster and up table, like out in the open, and you follow the cue ball to the end rail and kind of scooch it up behind the 9. And this is a fun little shot. You just have to cut it like a little bit. You don't want to cut it a lot. You get a double kiss or the cue ball scratches. You want the cue ball to follow mostly through the ball, not quite straight. You just cut it a little. Maybe you put a half tip of left on, but you're hitting it soft enough. It's not really going to be spinning too much when it hits that rail. I think I just try to use a straight high ball myself. Maybe a half twist. I like that little twist. Anyway, you wedge it beyond the 9 and ask, what does solids have from there? Now, even if you somehow leave them a shot, say worst case scenario, you leave them the 5 ball, they have a very difficult run out. They're going to have to make a good breakout. But I think I would say if I shot this shot 10 times, I'm going to get the hook 7 or 8 out of 10. And then the other 2 times out of 10, I'm going to leave them the edge of the 3 ball or something where it's like, what are they going to do? And then I'd have to, I can't even imagine myself scratching or leaving the 5. It's just a shot that I don't see going sideways for me very often. So this is something I would consider, because of how tough it is to make this, get on those other stripes, make the 14. And now here's how subtle 8-ball is though. If there was another stripe hanging in the other corner pocket opposite of the 9, like a safety valve, if he could shoot this, like right over there. Now, if he could shoot this ball, the 14, deal with those 2 stripes, use the 14 to break the 9. If he had a safety valve, then I would be all about the run out. But because of how tough it is to get from one end of the table to the other, make the breakout, you don't have a safety valve, I might actually play the safety right here, right now, while I still have as many balls on the table as I
All right.
do. But you know what? I know that like Skylar Woodward and Shane and Justin Bergman, they go ahead and run out, and there's no way they'd ever play defense here. And I hear everybody thinking that. That's fine. But if they ran out, they'd save the 14. So there you go.
Well, so far, like all I'm seeing between these first two racks, though, is how important the very first shot was. And because when he finally did get ball in hand on this rack here, we saw that he can run the table. It just looks like so far all we're really trying to fine tune is his strategy play. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah, and one thing I know a lot of people say, well, Shane and Sky would run out here; they would never even think of safe. They also have tools in their toolbox that Dave doesn't have fully developed. So that's the other thing is you have to play within your toolbox. I work with a lot of people on developing their toolbox, but it doesn't do any good to tell him to go try to run out from here if he doesn't have the tools to run out. You got to know what you can do and learn how to win using the pieces you have. People are all about developing their tools. I'm all about what tools do we have and how do we put them together effectively and get the job done. And then as your tools get better, then how you assemble them can get stronger and stronger. But it's always got to be, well, why don't we win today and then we'll win even more tomorrow? That's my thought.
I like the way that is. So Dave, so far, hopefully this stuff is beneficial to you. Demetrius, do you have any more on this rack? Because this is all that I had was that opening
Good,
shot.
good run out with solids. I'm really proud of him for dealing with those three trouble balls in the beginning. The 6 was a ball that yeah, we both agreed that the 3-7 were the big problems, but I think the 6, he got, he saw that he could pick off the 6 right away and then deal with those other balls. And good job.
All right, cool. Well, then let's take a look at the final rack.
All right, let's roll it. Rack 3. Dave is coming off a nice table run with solids. He's feeling good. Nice smooth break, not too hard. Got pretty good action. Nothing went.
All right, well, better spread than last time.
Here, I see a few good safeties from here. Okay, I'm just kidding. I know everybody listening. Ha ha ha. I'm not playing safe. So, I mean, of course, I can't really see. I know that he has the hanging stripe, so of course that draws your eye. I think that is that the 11 ball that's kind of tied up. I think that ball goes past the 2 and the 6 up and the 10 ball gets you on it. So I kind of like stripes here, and
I would agree.
That was
a little risky there because you could obviously tie up the 12.
Well, it kind of comes back to you as knowing where those balls are going, and yeah, because now all of a sudden I think he's kind of running low on shots. Unless this 11 ball goes from here, in which case he's still very live. It's just a super, super tough shot. Super tough shot. Yeah.
Just clips the 1.
Yep. Well, the 8 ball is a big problem here, too, with solids. Of course, you got to make the 1. The 2 ball has to go, it looks like maybe in the same pocket, which means it's going to take some good maneuvering. Nothing, the 5, 6 aren't the easiest balls to get on. Oh, the 2 goes right now. Okay, well, I'm glad he's picking this off if that ball goes right now. Nice shot, by the way.
Yes.
Those little twisty back cuts. Yeah. Now, this one here, how do you get on the 7? Do you come above the 14 and then cut the 7 in thinly? He tried to go in between them, and that was the tricky part, was there wasn't really a good line to go between them.
5 ball looks like a recovery shot.
Yeah, but that 1 was needed to get on the 4, or to get on the 7, I mean, because now that 7 is going to be a big problem. And that's a super tough shot over a ball. I don't blame. I mean, I would have a hard time putting that one down myself. All right. He's got the stripes. I'm feeling like the 12 passes the 6. He's got the 9, the 14, the 13 are the problem balls. I'm assuming the 9 goes in the top right. I don't know where the 14 goes. The 14 might go there too. If he got on the 13 on the end rail, the 14 might go up table. But it's getting pretty thin.
Yeah, I think he just glanced at the 14. He's trying to see if it goes past the 3. Is he going to try to thread the needle with the 9? What's he doing? Not sure what that was.
Well, I don't know that he had a good shot, so he just picked something and kept moving. And, oh, look at that. Did he use was that straight high, or did he have a little right spin on there? I don't know. It came pretty lively off that rail.
That was a good opportunity to try to break out the 8. He would have had position on either the 6 or the 4. I kind of like that.
Good. It was a good cut. So now he's just got that one more problem to deal with, and the only shot he can shoot is the 9. Doesn't lead naturally, so he's going to either have to draw back or follow a little bit, and there's no good break. I mean, if you try to shoot this with a below center and run the 6 into the 12, you're so flat on this that you'd have to hit this like King Kong. I just don't think you could. And now for the folks listening, I actually would start thinking about safety. But I'll tell you, he drew it back. If he can bank the 12 right now, he can show me some Justin Bergman magic here.
He's looking at the bank.
Is he from St. Louis?
I actually don't know.
I'll tell you what, if he makes this ball, come on, one time. The last one came short. That one hit the heart of the pocket.
Beautiful.
What a shot. What a smooth stroke there. He's for the cash. You know what? I think he's hustling me. I know what I feel like here, I'll tell you what, man.
Look at that. That was just beautifully done. My goodness.
Oh, man. I showed my there. What a great run out. Do I need to lose some weight? Okay, enough.
Oh man, that was too good. But you know what? Like there were still a couple of mistakes that were made during that rack. He could have finished it earlier. Do you see any spots that you want to talk about?
Let's go take a look, Chris.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start this one also here. This again goes back to the opening shot. And in this case here, we can see that he's going to take stripes and he's gonna go ahead and go for the hanger. Now, me personally, right after the break, if I'm going to stay at the table because I made a ball on the break, or if I'm coming to the table because my opponent broke dry, the first thing I have to look for, regardless of what set I'm going to choose, is for both solids and stripes, are there any trouble balls? And for stripes, I see only one, and that's this one here. And we saw where he tried to shoot it to go past the 1, and he ended up clipping the 1. So we don't really know if it actually goes or not. So if I'm going to choose stripes, that ball is my priority ball, and I have to get there as soon as possible, like you were referring to. Like, I don't want to clear the soldiers off the table because then I'm going to start losing access to be able to get to it. So how do you do that? Well, I see a couple of ways. These are just my opinions, and that is not to shoot this ball. It's actually to shoot this ball for a couple of reasons. One, we roll it into the side pocket, and that means the cue ball naturally comes over here. The possibility of it getting tied up with the 6, I mean, of course that's there. But if everything goes correctly, there's a couple of things that happen. You either have access to this ball right now to go ahead and shoot it and get position for this ball, or you have access to the 9 to go up here and then get position for this ball here to play a breakout shot. Because no matter what, this is one of your insurance balls, especially if you can't see it directly and you have these 2 balls here that you can possibly combo into them. But let's just rule this off the table and just say, like, no, that's a terrible decision. I'm still going to try to get here as soon as possible. And you can do it with this ball. Because instead of rolling into it the way you did and then bumping into this guy, you cut it much thinner and then come off the rail and then get the cue ball back up here to play position for this ball in order to deal with this. Like, that's always going to be my main focus. Because if I can't do that, if I'm not able to break the ball out, I'm not going to pocket balls. I'm just going to maneuver balls around to where hopefully, because that's what I'm betting on, my opponent's not going to run the table, and then my set is going to be set up for me to attack again if I fail at doing my objective, which is to break out the troubled ball. Because then besides that, if there's just no way to do this, you already heard me say before about how he's unnecessarily moved this ball because it could have gotten trouble. It just didn't. I probably would have just feathered this ball in, put the cue ball here so that I can back cut the 13 ball, and that means the cue ball naturally rolls out here to deal with the 12. So now we're done with these 3, but then we still have to pay attention to this guy. So if it does go, then like I said, that's going to be my highest priority, is to get over there. If it doesn't go, it's still going to be my highest priority in order to figure out how to finish the table as stripes right here at this opening spot. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I like this last pattern you drew. Even if you had to get thin on the 13, you might even be able to play the cue ball 1 rail up for the 10 ball next. Just coming floating between the gaps. So I actually don't mind doing that right now because I might miss the 14, and missing on an open table is just a disaster. But to play it, I think what we're saying is identify the problem balls and understand the importance of that first shot. That a lot of times, if you're running 4, 5, 6 balls and not running the whole table, it's not because of the sixth shot. It's actually what we're seeing again and again is it's actually because of the first shot. So
Yep, it's the series of shots that's leading up to the mistake, and that's one of the big things that I always like to say is like sometimes the ball that you miss is not the ball that you made the mistake on. It's all the shots that led up to that, and if you would have made a correction here or there, then the shot that you actually missed might have been a little bit easier. But that's pretty much what I have for this. Demetrius, did you have something you wanted to talk about?
yeah. One other comment I'd like to add on. What I'd like to point out has to do with table presence. And I'm going to kind of be talking about, I'm trying to think about it. Do I talk about focus or intensity, concentration? We all have lapses. We all have, physical mistakes and misses. We all have mental lapses. But a big factor in pool is when you make a mistake, is it one mistake or is it a bunch of mistakes in a row? When you fall down, do you bounce right back up? Are you resilient? Are you quick to get back up? Or do you kind of just start waiting for something easy to come along to kind of get your momentum going again naturally? It's like if you're on a bike. Do you, if you kind of lose momentum, are you just going to kind of sit there and wait for a hill that you can kind of go down to help pick up the momentum, or are you going to pedal and earn that? When I used to train people, I would train people. I called it poise, because I'd say, suppose you're at work, nobody knows your title, nobody knows who you're talking to, what you're talking about. All they can see is your body language, your hand gestures. Maybe they hear your tone, maybe you see your facial expressions. They see how you're dressed. They see how you carry yourself. Do you look like the CEO? Do you look like the receptionist? Like what job would they think you have? And I had a lot of people that were qualified for, maybe on paper for different positions, but they needed to work on their presence. I want people to look at his poise and effort. Like, what was the effort he put into this first shot and then the first inning with solids? And what will happen is you see he puts in a lot of effort. And then as things start getting messed up and the table's messed up and he's, kind of made a few mistakes, it's like he breaks down in terms of focus and effort, in my opinion. And then he starts making a series of mistakes. Let's go ahead and roll it. So here we saw that this is where he left himself. Very difficult shot. Understandable. Everybody's going to make a mistake. The mistake is human. Now, he is very focused and bears down extremely hard on this two ball. In my opinion, he bears down very hard on this two. This is not an easy shot. He's got his first inning of solids. He wants to try to run the table. And if you look, he does kind of a pre-shot routine. He addresses the ball. He's hungry. I can feel his desire to run the table. And here too, now I don't think this is the right shot. I don't think you can hit this window between the 1 and the 7 or the 7 and the 14, but he's trying and he gets down and he's really trying here. I felt his effort. And then I felt a little bit of frustration here because he's not where he wanted to be. He didn't get on his problem ball. He's got this hard shot in the 5. It's ugly. Now he just kind of drops down and says, well, this is ugly. I'll give it a swing. And the effort on this shot was a little bit subpar. But now he's made one mistake of stripes and one mistake of solids. Now let's look at his next inning of stripes. Now, I feel like he's shooting quick, instead of like walking around and reassessing and making a plan and getting excited to be running the table, I feel like he's like, well, now I'm going to start shooting balls in and hopefully it works out. I just felt like his grit went down on this. Even here, he could soft roll this ball. There's things he can do, but I just feel like his planning and his determination and his vision all kind of faded a little bit. He just started shooting balls in and didn't really come together. And then he misses this 14. And so now this is his third error of the rack. I'm sorry, he misses the 9.
Yeah, this was the 9.
Yep. And then we'll notice what he does. So now he's back to the table here with solids. And again, does he walk down here and look at his problem balls? Does he try to make a plan of what he's going to do? He just kind of gets down and starts swatting balls. And this leads nowhere to where he actually misses his second shot. And so I guess what I would say is that when everybody's going to make mistakes, and you can pause it here. So just everybody makes mistakes, but when you make a mistake, if it's an execution error, I tell my students like this: when people make mistakes over things they can't control, like their in the moment performance or whether a ball goes or not, I'm very, very, very forgiving of people making mistakes. over things that they can't directly control. They can influence the outcomes, but they can't control them. I'm very forgiving, but I'm very demanding when it comes to the things you can control, and focus, effort, decision making, that attitude. These are things that you can control. And so I absolutely am more demanding than most people because it's inexcusable to me. And so what I would say is it's tough. It's tough to always be poised, focused, hungry. But one of the things to know is that when you make an error and when the table starts getting messy and it's hard to have a clear plan and you've just made an error or two, that's when you're very susceptible for losing focus. So look at that and say, next time I make an error, I promise that as part of your routine, when I come back to the table, I'm going to take a deep breath, formulate a plan, and give it my best. And it may be a mess and you may not be able to execute, but you can manage that. You can always manage your effort. And I think that that's going to go a long, long way. If you can always give a clean effort on every inning, boy, you might cut half your mistakes out of your game.
Okay, so Dave, overall, like you have the tools there to be able to do what you did. Like when you have those open tables, you're able to run the tables. But I would have to say, I think the most common thing that was coming from me, especially, was the opening shot. I feel like no matter what, whether you're coming to the table from a dry break or when you're coming to the table after making a ball on the break, I would suggest that you just observe the entire table, maybe even walk a lap or two around the table. Make sure you are fully aware of where all the balls are and identify the trouble balls for both solids and stripes, regardless if you already know that you're going to be solids if you're playing by APA rules. You said you play tap. I'm not too familiar with tap, so I don't know if it's an open table after the break but just at any rate, if you know where all the trouble balls are, that's going to help you assess whether you want to choose solids or stripes because you want to deal with the set that has the least amount of troubled balls. But you also have to make sure that opening shot basically is going to allow you to attack the table. And if it doesn't, then that's where you just have to start playing the strategy game, which is where you heard both me and Demitrius kind of pick apart the strategy game of putting balls in better positions so that way you can just break stuff out, knocking your opponent's balls in, et cetera, et cetera. I think if you can at least add that on top of your ability to run, because at least in 8-ball, it's really not all about running the entire table most of the time, because depending upon, unless you get that beautiful spread off the break, you're gonna give the table back to your opponent. But give the table back to your opponent under your conditions, not because you made a mistake. That's pretty much what I got for this one here, so I hope the information that I was able to give you was at least useful. Demetrius, do you have any final words you want to add?
Yeah. Well, thanks for sending this in, Dave. And I would love to hear from you in the comments. What I see is, well, I look at it this way: running the table involves 3 skills: shot making, cue ball control, and decision making. Pattern play. I call it pattern play. So your shot making is not what's holding you back on this. Now, that doesn't mean that you're, Shane Van Boning. It just means that it's not the weak link in the chain. It's not, your runs were not typically ending because you couldn't pocket routine shots. Of course, difficult shots are difficult shots, but you pocketed routine shots very well. Very good shooting. And so then it comes down to, was it pattern play or was it cue ball control? And we talked a lot about decision making and the ways that you made decisions. But the funny part is, if someone's decisions aren't always optimal, it could just be because they're ineffective at making decisions, but it could be because they don't have some of the tools. There's my dad saying, if your only tool is a hammer, the whole world looks like a nail. So what I would say is, when I saw your decision making, I was very attentive to what your cue ball maneuvers were, and I saw that you had a good grasp over what I would consider like a starter tool set. Like, you could follow the ball, you could draw the ball, you could follow the stun line, hit below center and follow tangent lines. Your one rail position seems okay. Like, those are some really basic tools, and you're good at them. What I would say is, you need to get better at those tools to where you can be even more accurate with that basic tool set. Because in 8-ball, those tools are critical, like which speed you break open the balls at, knowing, tightening up that cue ball from being here to here on the basic tools, really, really important. Beyond that, there's tools that are missing. And when it comes to running open balls, the basic tool set usually is good enough to run the open balls. But when you're trying to find a way to deal with that breakout and that problem ball and getting more and more accurate with the speed and direction of your cue ball on those tricky maneuvers, either cue ball transitions from one end of the table to the other, or those breakouts, you really might need more tools than what you have right now. And so multiple rails, being able to bink second rail positions with the right speed and direction, using blends of side spin and high and low. I didn't see a lot of that in your game. And I saw you use some side spin a couple times, but there's some things that I saw that were like, I kind of get a feel of what tools you don't have by the decisions you make. And so I actually don't think, even though I was kind of hard on your decision making, I don't feel it was because of lack of intelligence or lack of understanding. I just think it was a lack of tools. And so if I had you for 3 days, I would be excited to start adding in tools that you don't have, and then fine tuning the tools you do have to tighter ranges, and then showing you what you can build in terms of table runs with an expanded and heightened toolbox. So that's what I see for you. And so just for my 3 day, a lot of what I do is depending on where people are at, that's what I do. I take the tools they already have and sharpen them. I add a couple tools they might be missing. And then for people that already have a lot of tools or that already have those pretty well polished, then we talk about assembling those tools and how to make those patterns really, really sing so that we're able to play high percentage pool. Again, developing the tools, sharpening the tools, assembling the tools, filling in the gaps. I can start, wherever the person's at, whether they're here or whether they're here. If somebody has the skill set that Dave has, I'm going to be able to. I've had players like to play like this that after 3 days with me and then a little bit of practice at home, I've seen videos of them a month or two later, and they look like totally different players where they're picking through tough tables like a gymnast from shot to shot to shot. It's mind blowing. Players, Dave, player at your level, I could blow your mind with what I could do with you in 3 days. For good players that already run a lot of tables, they may feel like they have all the tools, they have all the knowledge. Those players, though, have a harder time getting better because they're like, well, how do I get better from here? And so those players, I love it because there's always some misunderstandings and refinement that can be made on these tools, and then showing them how to put it together. They may not be as night and day as watching Dave go from where he's at to where I could have him in 3 days, but those small adjustments are going to mean more because it's so much harder to get better as you get better. So I don't care what level you're at, and I just check it out, mnpoolbootcamp.com, minnesotapoolbootcamp.com. I'd love to hear from you, Dave, and or anyone watching. So, and if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the YouTube comments, and I'll be trolling around there and mixing it up. So.
Awesome. Well, Dave, we do really appreciate you sending in your video for us to review. I do apologize as to how long it took us to get to this, because I think you submitted this back in October of last year. But as I mentioned before, we're just trying to catch up with all the ones that we have here. And we certainly do hope that at least the advice that we were able to give, you can find useful and figure out ways to incorporate them into your game. And then, like Demitrius said, feel free to reach out to us if you need any further advice as to how we could break down the racks even more. Or if you want, I do have a Facebook group. You'll find that information in the description box below, where you can continue to submit videos of yourselves, and the members of my group also do critiques on top of me doing additional critiques as well. Demetrius, thank you so much for being here with me for another pool review. Hopefully the next time all three of us, including Nate, can do the next one, because we do have a few more before we're finally done with all of this. And for the viewers out there, you know how we like to include your input. So if there was anything that you feel that you want to agree or even disagree, or anything that you felt that we might have missed, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below with the timestamp of where your advice would want to begin. So as always, if you like what you saw here, please give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to me. Head on over to Demitrius's YouTube channel, MN Pool Bootcamp, and to subscribe to him as well. Demitrius, take care.
Thanks, Chris. Have a great week.
And take care, everybody else.